Okay, gang. Well, that was really exciting. College Saturday on that. Most of the games are on Saturday, but I did the or some of the games, of course, with Illinois and USC was what 34-32. That was exciting. And Illinois kicked a field goal with no time left. It was a seesaw game, and they hung on and won. And then Ohio State was behind Washington early there in Seattle. And they came back and won 24-6 and all. But Iowa and Indiana, what a game! Of course, the low scoring when Iowa plays, it always is. Indiana pulled that out, 20-15 and all. And then now Penn State and Oregon, what a game there. Penn State always has trouble beating those big top teams, but Oregon did it in double overtime, 30-24. What a show that was. And it was a whiteout, but Oregon wore white, well, jerseys. So it was kind of interesting how Penn State wore blue, but they had the whiteout. And then now Georgia Tech and Wake Forest had a tough game. Georgia Tech did win that by 1 point. Another close one. And Ole Miss and LSU had a battle in Oxford there. And Ole Miss won. I think the home teams won the last few years. So Ole Miss did it, and of course their Q there, Trinidad Chambliss did really good. Their Q. He's one of the Heisman hopefuls, probably. We'll talk about later. And then Tennessee did beat Miss State in another overtime, 41-34 there. Another tough game. And one of the biggies was Bama and Georgia, 24-21 Bama. And one thing I learned about it is they say between the hedges and stuff. And it turns out Georgia does have these hedges that surround the field and all. And what it is, it's called the Chinese privet hedges, and they've been there since 1929. And they're like several feet high and several feet wide and all. And what it does, it kind of inadvertently creates crowd control because you can't storm the field with those hedges and all. They've only stormed it once back in 2000. So, and six other SEC teams now have hedges in that. So it's just kind of interesting how those schools kind of emulate each other and do that. But I was just checking about this hedges. All the announcers use it all the time. And it'd be something to go to Sanford State in there in Athens and see a game there. But the one problem is they did have that field storming in the UVA game when they won their game against Florida State. 19 of the kids got injured. They were running out on the field. They ran out probably the fastest I've ever seen it. When the guy dropped the ball in the end zone, those students ran out so fast. It's amazing. More didn't get hurt, but 19 did. So that was that. And then, of course, the big game, of course, with being from Tucson here, we dropped the game to Iowa State 39-14. And pretty tough game because we knew Matt Campbell and them have had good teams all there. And we just didn't have enough to keep up with them. The Iowa State had bigger lines both on O and D. But the one thing I like about the Iowa State fans, they're extremely friendly. And the U of A bands commented at how friendly they were. And I believe that everybody's in the Big 12, other than, of course, Iowa State, their second favorite team is probably Iowa State because their fans are always so nice and friendly and all.
A
And
lot different than those dirty Iowa fans.
okay, and one of the things that the announcers said that there isn't much in common with Ames and Tucson, and that's not exactly true because 70% of the population of Arizona is from the Midwest. So we have deep ties to the Midwest and Iowa. We've been there many times. I've been to Casey Airport 20 times, and we've been to all those Midwest states at least 15 times. And 70% of our friends here in Arizona are Midwesterners. So I think the announcer is unaware of that common tie that we have to the Midwest. And I was just wanted to bring that up that if anybody hears that, they say, yeah, you're right. Arizona really does have strong ties. And that we're glad to be in the Big 12 because of that ties. And of course, with Tech, we played them for years, and a lot of the Big 12 people knew that. So, but that's what I wanted to say. And I wasn't too upset because I knew we had our hands full with Iowa State and that. And, there's the bowls that we were projected to go to last week are still the same because they knew we'd drop this game. So we're still maybe going to Hawaii or Vegas or LA or one of them, El Paso, one of those bowls, just like before. So nothing's changed but pretty good games in that. As far as the college games and that, we'll cover the NFL later in that. As far as the rankings I have, as far as the conferences between, let me get them over here. The Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12 and ACC, the Power Four. Uh, I'd say the SEC is probably the strongest. They had 10 of them ranked. The Big Ten's probably the second. They got 5 ranked. And the Big 12 and ACC, Big 12's got 3 and ACC's got 4. So it's pretty close between those guys. Overall, the strength are really close, but I'd say the Big Ten and SEC do have a little edge over the other two. But with all these upsets and overtimes and stuff, you can't take anything for granted. It's going to be pretty exciting. But that's what I had mostly in college ball and that. Oh, one other thing. I did notice, Alex, you did have a North Texas Mean Green shirt with that emblem
Yep.
on that. And I noticed it right away. I said, that's North Texas. And that would be neat to go to a game in Denton there in the Metro or Dallas area, Dallas
Yeah.
Fort Worth. And I would like to go to a game there sometime. And they're going to be playing South Florida, I think, in October 10th. And that's going to be big. Of course, Navy, Memphis, and North Texas are right up top there. They're probably playing for that playoff berth. And and North Texas has got 44.8 points a game. They're really exciting. And they're ranked 40th in the nation. And they've got a ranking all the way to 136. So you can, I know all the rankings of the Big 12 teams. I'll get them all for you. But North Texas is better than or higher ranked than 7 Big 12 teams. That's how tough they are. So that's one of them. And Kennesaw State, who we had that symbol in the show before, we're in the bottom 25 and they pulled up. They won 3 in a row. And that's the smallest stadium. They have only 10,000 seats. And Tulsa, which is this stadium, Skelly Stadium, is only 20 miles from your place, Justin. The Tulsa is the smallest FBS school. It's only like 3,000 students. So, and they made some noise last week. I talked about a bit, and they're in the American too. So we'll see how they do. That's one I wanted to talk about. But in the Big 12 power ratings, I wanted to give you. I've got Texas Tech, Iowa State, BYU, and ASU's the top 4. The middle or the next 4 be Houston, Utah, TCU, and Cincinnati. And then the next 4, Arizona, UCF, KU, and Baylor. And then the other ones are K-State, West Virginia, CU, and Oklahoma State. It's fairly close to the rankings because in the national rankings, Texas Tech's 8, Iowa State's 14, BYU's 22, and ASU's 26. Houston's 37, Utah's 24, TCU's 31, and Cincinnati's 36. And then Arizona's 48, UCF's 51, KU 39, Baylor 47, and then K-State 68, West Virginia 76, and CU 66, and Oklahoma State is 111. So they do have them ranked all the way to the bottom. I check every week, and always those ones that are down there at the bottom, I kind of pull for and see them come up because it's nice to see some of those teams do come up. And that because we show a lot of love to all these powerhouse teams that are ranked and everything, but it's good to always support the underdogs and see them pull up. But that's my thing on college ball. I got the Heisman race, guys. You probably want to bring it up. I got Dante Moore, the Q of Oregon, that big dramatic win up in State College, got him there. I got Ty Simpson, the Q at Alabama. They pulled off a big against Georgia. That gives Kalen DeBoer a little respect because everybody's been dumping on him, but he had a big win to win in Athens against a higher rated Georgia team. So that's really going to help him out. Of course, Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver out of Ohio State's up there on one of the Heisman, and Carson Beck, the Miami quarterback, and Fernando Mendoza, the Indiana quarterback. He's really good too. And then I mentioned Trinidad Chambliss out of Ole Miss and that. So those are like the top 6 in that. And so, but I know you guys have your thoughts too on that. But that's the stuff on college football that I wanted to mention in that. As far as there's plenty of key games this coming week. As far as Vandy's playing Alabama at Tuscaloosa, and Alabama's favored by 10.5. But Vandy's looking pretty good. They won some big games. If they were to beat Alabama twice in a row, that would be very historic. And then UVA and Louisville are playing. Virginia's on the road. So Louisville's actually favored by 6.5 on that one. And then Miami's playing Florida State, the big one, in Tallahassee. But Miami's favored. So that's a big one. Who knows what will happen there. And then Mississippi State and A&M are playing. A&M's really favored in that. And Boise State's playing Notre Dame this week up there in South Bend, but Notre Dame's favored by almost 20. So that's pretty much it on college ball that I've got. What are you guys' thoughts on various things? Oh, one thing before I wanted to mention, I like to do history reports and stuff. And U of A has lost every road game that Brennan's coached, except that Utah game. We videotaped the one in Lamona just after they beat Utah, but all the others are losses. And so I'm concerned about their discipline issues. And it reminded me of a coach, Bob Weber in Tucson. He coached U of A from 69 to 72, and we did not win a road game in the first 2 years. And one of those losses was to UTEP in 1970. So we finally won our first road game in 71. We beat Washington State and Joe Albi Stadium in Spokane. We won that. So hopefully Brennan can win a road game, because Cincinnati, Houston, ASU, and CU, we got to play all four of them on the road. And I don't know if we'll break through on any of them. They all pretty good. CU's ranked fourth, but we barely beat them 2 years ago when we had that team that went to the Alamo Bowl. So I don't know if Arizona can win a road game, but they're going to have to show more discipline on that. That's what I want to comment about U of A. Hopefully they can pull it. They're favored by Oklahoma State by 20.5 points. So we'll see how they do. And I know you guys probably have your opinions on that and many other games, but that's just my update on college ball.
That was
And you
quite
guys
the monologue, Dad.
yeah, but I wanted to get it all out and dump the whole load, and then you guys can have fun.